You know what, Mira? You know what bothers me?
What's that, Gideon?
The 6 Marys. So many people have so many questions about it. What the heck is the 6 Marys? Man, I know for me, I had a lot of revelations with Father when I was a young kid. And long story short, he guided me on a proper path where he literally saved my life when I was a kid. And even to the point where I realized that he died for me as Jesus did, right? And it's like, wow, I felt this amazing love from Father, yet when the whole 6 Marys thing came in, it's like, it got to the point where it's like, even if it may be true, I experienced this love that's beyond me. I can't deny that. And I even remember that there was this one very well-respected second gen that I was really good friends with. He was like, "Kid, you know, what about that 6 Marys? That's, come on, like we're adults now. Mm-hmm. Like, can't we just, yeah, like you could grow up from that, right? Like this is all crazy." And I'm like, dude, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But I had this revelation. I can't lie to myself. So I'm just going by faith, even though I don't know how to answer the 6 Marys so well. Mm. And then as time eventually went on, then I learned more about it. But I think this hit a lot of second gen where when they hear about the 6 Marys, a lot of them fall away. A lot of them, you know,
my sister
quote
did.
unquote lose faith. Okay, your sister did, right? Yeah. It's just that's the end of it, right? Mm-hmm. Where some second gen end up living a sincere life of, you know, still being celibate or still being filial or keeping fidelity with their spouse. And then there's others that are just like, oh, well, that goes against all the church's teachings. And then they actually live an opposite life, right, where they start to just fornicate and, mm-hmm, you know, sex, whatever, right? So this is really huge. So what is the theological backing behind this?
So here's the thing. So this video that we're making, it's like kind of a response to the video that we were talking about earlier, and the accusation they made is what you're talking about.
Right.
And so they're saying, well, you know, it's often in cults that you have sexual abuse, sexual immorality going on, mm-hmm, usually with the founder abusing his followers.
Right.
And so basically they're making that accusation towards Reverend Moon, towards True Father.
Right. So, and saying like the same similar things like, oh, it's providential reason, mm-hmm, and yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So the first question we have to ask is it possible for a sexual act outside of marriage to be for a providential purpose? Mm-hmm. Now, first off, you would think, obviously, that's a no. Mm. But if you look at the Bible, there's a very obvious story that comes forward, and that's the story of Tamar.
Right.
The woman who disguised herself as a prostitute, deceived and lied to her father-in-law, mm-hmm, in order to sleep with him, mm-hmm, so that she could have a child and carry on God's chosen lineage.
Right.
So that was a sexual act, mm-hmm, very much outside of marriage, but was done for a providential reason.
Right.
So there is biblical precedence for this concept. Mm-hmm. Now, we haven't fully gone in depth into discussing the fall, but the people of that video understood that we believe that the fall was a fallen sexual act. That is the core act that was the fall. Mm-hmm. So there is a logic that if the fall, if the root cause of all evil in the world was a fallen sexual act, mm-hmm, the way to restore humanity and bring us back to our original state before the fall is through a heavenly sexual act, mm-hmm, rather than a fallen sexual act. Mm. So
makes sense. Okay.
Makes sense, right?
Right.
So in our church, we have something called the 3-day ceremony, and this is how this restoration takes place. And the way it works is you have the bride and the groom, and you have True Father, who stands in the position as the Messiah, the true Adam. Mm-hmm. And for the couple, the woman represents Eve. The husband actually represents, when they first come to True Father to receive the blessing, the husband represents the archangel. Mm. He stands in the place of the archangel. Mm. Because, just like Jesus said, you are of your father the devil, because of the fall, all men and women, all men in this world are descended from the archangel, are connected to his bloodline.
Right.
So
And then for the women, before the blessing, they're in the position of fallen Eve, right?
yes,
So men are archangel, women are fallen Eve. Okay.
yes. And so during the blessing ceremony, True Father gives the holy wine. And when he gives the holy wine, the woman who stands in the position of fallen Eve, she receives it first. That order is very important. They specifically say the wife receives it first, and then she gives it to the husband. The wine symbolizes the sexual act, to undo the fallen sexual act of the fall. That's what the holy wine represents.
Right.
And so then, once the wife receives the holy wine, then they have the 3-day ceremony, which is a ceremony where you start off with the woman representing now restored Eve, through being restored through true Adam. She then has sex with the archangel, but as a restored Eve, she is through that act, not sex with the archangel, through the sexual act, she is restoring the husband who is in the fallen place of the archangel. She is restoring him to a true Adam.
Right.
So that is how you go, because first it was fallen sex, archangel, Eve, husband, to now Adam, so now true Adam, true Eve, archangel.
Right.
Restoring everything.
Yeah, it's true Adam restoring fallen Eve to now become true Eve, and now true Eve is restoring
The archangel.
the archangel. Right. And then what happens after restoring the husband who's in the archangel position?
And then at the end of the 3-day ceremony, so then the first day the wife is on top to represent that she is becoming subject over the archangel, because the problem was the archangel became subject over Eve.
Right.
That was the fall. So she's becoming subject over the archangel. So then by the end of the 3-day ceremony, the husband is now on top, because the husband has been restored through restored Eve.
Right.
And now the husband's proper place is subject over his wife.
Right.
So that is the 3-day ceremony. Okay, so that's the theological understanding of how the sexual act restores humanity to our proper place and to restore us to God's lineage.
Okay. So now what happened in practice with this?
So and then
Yes.
the wine represents the sexual act.
Right.
But it makes sense for Father to actually engage in the sexual act with probably a providential number of women for the specific purpose of doing what we just described. But Father cannot sleep with all women.
Right, you can't.
Right?
You can't.
He can't. And so he has the sexual act with a representative number of women who are in a representative place for all women.
Right.
And so through that act, then the holy wine can be used to represent the sexual act for all other women who receive the blessing.
All women have the access through the holy wine to receive the blessing in a way of representing a sexual act with the true Adam.
But that comes on the foundation.
Right, from the foundation.
Of Father actually engaging in sex with a representative number of women.
Right.
Okay, so that is the theological. I can't say I understand it perfectly. This is my understanding, and so this is the theological basis.
Which, by the way, I recall that ever since Second King or Young Jim was going around in each state in America, and people were free to ask him any questions.
Oh, his listening tour?
Yeah, that people asked him about the 6 Marys.
Right.
In which Hyungjin at the time, he was the world president, and he actually told leaders to come educate about this topic, and people have not chosen to do that.
Right.
They haven't chosen themselves to do that. They're just like, I don't know where to start. Right. Even though Second King actually gave that education to them, they didn't propagate that to everyone else, so it left everyone in a huge mystery.
So in a big way, it's those leaders not stepping up.
Right.
Is why we have so much confusion now.
Exactly. So there shouldn't have been this shame about hiding this.
Right. His father had no shame.
Father had no shame, man.
Father did not keep secrets. He did not hide in the corner.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So.
Let's go on.
Let's go on. Next up, so so the question is whether these sexual acts were done for a providential purpose or for a selfish, self-gratifying purpose.
Right.
if it
and
was,
that's the thing, obviously, most people are troubled by.
Right.
It has to be selfish.
Right.
Because if I were in that position, I'll go crazy too.
Right.
So I'll leave and I'll bang as many chicks as I can. Anyway, yeah, so, yeah, go on.
So that's the question. Did Father do this for a providential reason or for a selfish reason?
Right.
So to answer that question, help us answer that question, first you can look at the theology, but second, you can look at the man's character, true father's character, and his life course.
Right.
By observing him, see what kind of character he had. And then that can help us to come to an answer. So let's look, if we look at his character and his life.
Okay.
First off, those women, to my understanding, they were all Korean, and they were at a specific time, and it was a specific number. True Father then came to America.
Right.
And spent 40 years in America as his home. His home was America for 40 years, starting in 1960.
Yeah.
During that whole time, there has not been one accusation from any woman in America or anywhere else for that matter that Father ever did anything inappropriate or even act inappropriate to, not even do anything inappropriate, even act inappropriate to them in any way. Not one accusation.
So do you have any examples of anybody you know personally that's a first gen living in America when Father came here? Do you know anyone
I'm
personally?
glad you asked that question.
Yeah? Who's that?
Well, first off, there's my mom, right?
Okay.
My mom was an early member. She knew Father well. She had a lot of time where it was her and other women and other members and Father. And she said, they spent a lot of time listening to the Father talk in a room in Belvedere, and she said, not once, not ever, did she ever feel anything inappropriate or immoral coming from True Father in that way. Not once. And women, we all understand, women have a very high sense of being able to detect when a man has the wrong intentions.
Right. A woman can test when a man's thirsty. Go on.
Right, they can. So, my mom said, she never experienced anything, and she didn't know any women who said that True Father acted inappropriately with them. Not even any former members who are disgruntled and hate the church now. Not even anyone from there has made any accusations against True Father.
Right. These are disgruntled members not claiming about a story prior to Father coming to America. This is just them personally. Yeah, no one could claim that personally.
Right. And so that was my mom.
So you know someone else?
Yes.
Who else?
So my wife Misha, who you may have seen in the previous video, her mom's name is Miho, and she was True Father and his wife at the time, Hak Jahan.
She was True Father's what? True Father's.
She was their personal servant for 10 plus years. Spent a lot of time with them, one-on-one, alone. If True Father was the kind of man to just start a cult so he could take advantage of women, he would have had all the opportunity in the world.
Well, what did Mio do for him?
I mean, she would. I've heard she would dye his hair.
Okay.
She would help cook. She would massage him. She would also massage Hak Jahan.
His wife.
Yeah, she's actually a professional massage therapist now. But those were things that she would do as their servant. So
she had that time with True Father, and did True Father ever once do anything wrong, like give her a certain eye or something that's a clear sexual act? Was it?
I asked Miho recently directly.
Okay.
I asked her the question directly.
Right.
Did Father ever do anything inappropriate? And she said, not 1 second.
Whoa.
Did True Father ever say anything, do anything, even look at her in a way.
10 plus years.
10 plus years, not once. If this was a man who was ruled by his sexual desires, he very obviously would have taken any liberties he can with as many women as he can. Right. But yet this woman, who was his personal servant for 10 years, says not 1 second did he ever do anything inappropriate or wrong.
Wow. See, yeah, that's incredible. And do you know any other women, or I'm sure?
I don't, but
yeah, sure. Yeah. But it's just that's the thing. You don't hear any American woman make any type of personal.
It is here for 40 years.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, and there's plenty of people that could like go out and say, "Oh man, he did this to me, he did that to me," and husbands could be like, he did this to my wife.
Right,
I'm angry. I'm gonna leave and stuff like that.
Right.
Right. But you don't hear that at all in America.
Not one story.
Right. And when Father came here in 1960, he was 40 by then. Yeah, he was 40. That's still a young man who could take advantage of people.
Yeah.
Right.
He was still, a young buck.
Right. Okay, so then what? What else?
So next I want to talk about how. Okay, so if you have this, people are depicting him as a cult leader, and if it's someone who is out, he's just ruled by his own sexual nature, his own desire, and he's just looking to get the most sexual gratification. That is a man who does not have good dominion over his physical body.
Right.
His body has dominion over him.
Right.
Okay. So then if we look at let's look at Father's course in this way. True Father, who lived to the age of about 92, I believe.
Yes, 92. Yep.
He probably averaged 2 to 3 to 4 hours of sleep his entire life.
Yeah. Yeah, 2 hours of sleep most of his life, and then literally towards the end of his life, he was like, "Sorry, God, I can only do 4 hours."
but I've even heard stories of security guards who saw him turn off the lights, and then 45 minutes later, he turns the light back on. Like there are nights where it's even less than that. So, and this
is where people accuse of our cult saying, "Oh, they make the members so sleep deprived, so they're easily programmed." And it's like, well, if that's that logic, I guess Reverend Moon programmed
himself.
Exactly.
Well, just if you're trying to save the world, you're a busy guy.
Yeah, right.
You don't have time to sleep in every day, right?
Right.
That's the point. So, so there's that. So that wasn't just off and on. That was his entire life was that way. Also, I'm pretty sure True Father has the record all time for the amount of travel he did.
Yes.
He was constantly traveling all over the world. He would do 50 state tours in 50 days.
How many countries has
How many countries he's been to. He was always traveling. Everyone knows how tiring it is to go on one trip.
Yeah.
One trip, you come home, you're knocked out, you don't want to go anywhere for a week, at least. He was constantly traveling his entire life.
Dude.
Constantly. Never resting. He also has the world record, easily, for most public speeches given during a lifetime.
Yeah.
He was always giving public speeches, and they were very regularly, the norm was over 10 hours.
Yeah.
He would give a speech for over 10 hours in one go.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Members would be passing out in the audience.
I can witness that, because I think we can all witness that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And we all know how tiring public speaking is, and he was always traveling, always public speaking. So there's that. Also, my dad, Father was also an avid fisherman. He loved fishing. And my dad is also a fisherman. And he went on many fishing trips with Father. On the East Coast of America, they would do fishing for bluefin tuna. And my dad told me this story. He wasn't there, but he has friends who were on this trip where Father said, "I'm going to do a 40-day fishing condition." And it was for an upcoming event at the Washington Monument, a very big event that they had, I believe, in the 70s.
Right.
And the condition, he was doing condition for that event, and he said, "I'm going to fish for 40 days, no matter what, and for every fish we catch, 10,000 people will come to the Washington Monument." That's the condition. And
that's how serious this guy is. He's most Americans are like, a condition? What? Why make a condition? Just, I don't know, advertise, market.
Right.
So no, this is a very spiritual man. A very spiritual man. Yes, go on.
And he's not just like, well, let's just try to catch some fish, and then we'll show God that we're trying, and then hopefully that'll bring some
he's making
number.
a number.
He's like, this represents 10,000 people per fish.
Yeah.
That's what he's holding himself to that number.
Right.
So he could have looked like an idiot.
Right.
And then no one shows up. Well, why did we catch all those fish? Because he set himself to that number.
Right.
So anyways, they're going fishing, and after a certain point, the weather starts to get bad, but they go out anyways. Next day, the weather gets even worse. They still go out. Next day, it's even worse. They still go out fishing. The next day, it's like a freaking hurricane, typhoon, and all the ship, no one's out, all the ships are in, because it's a hurricane, basically.
Yeah, who goes fishing in a hurricane, typhoon? Like,
Father did.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
He said it's a condition. He's like, I have to go no matter what.
Yeah.
So he could have made an excuse. God, I know I said the condition, but look at the weather. This is terrible. I can't go out.
For a guy that would follow his body would naturally do that because he's in fear. He's in fear of his body to be injured, damaged, or even to the point of death, right? But that's a crazy man.
Right.
Everyone can see that's a crazy man doing that. Oh no, I have to fulfill this number, even though it looks like hell out there in the waters. It's like, is this really a guy that just follows his penis?
Right.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
It's crazy bad. It's basically like a hurricane on the water. There's no ships out. All of them have come in. Everyone's just trying to bunker down and survive. I was like, we got to go fishing.
Yep.
We made a condition.
Making that condition.
We're going out. So they go out. And Vanessa, they were like half trying to fish as best they could, half just trying to stay alive and stay afloat. So they're out there doing the best they can. A big Coast Guard cutter, much bigger than their ship, comes on by, spots them, and calls out to them, saying, "Hey, are you guys okay?" And they were like, "Yeah, we're okay." And then confused, Coast Guard's like, "Okay, but why are you out here?" And then they say, "We're fishing."
Yep.
And they're like, "Fishing? Why are you fishing? Like, there's a storm. Go inside. Why are you? You're gonna die." They're like, "No, we're good. We're doing a condition." So, Curse is like, "All right, good luck. Hope you make it." You know. And so that shows that even the Coast Guard recognized how bad it was.
Right.
And they thought they were literally a ship in distress. No, they're out there on purpose, just fishing.
Just fishing.
Because Father set that condition. So the point of the story is, so the point of the story is that if Father was a man who just started a cult to get sex, then that's a man who's controlled by his physical body and who's dominated by his body, who cares most about his body. So why would someone who's so dominated by his body's desires that he would put his body at risk in a storm? He would just make some excuse, it's the condition, but it's too crazy, we all might die, let's just stay in, I'll say a prayer, God will think he'll say it's okay. Right? That's what he would have done if he was that kind of person, but he wasn't. He was a man of total conviction, total character. He was going to fulfill his word, his promise, and his condition that he set with God.
So the condition that he set, what did he end up getting?
Yeah, so he said at the beginning, each fish we catch will represent 10,000 people, who will come to the Washington Monument. He caught 30. Over the 40-day course, he caught 30. 300,000 people showed up to the Washington Monument. Right. The fact that he set himself to a number shows the faith that he has in God. Right. Because if only, let's say, 100,000 showed up, which is still a good turnout, but it would have shown that the number he set was not fulfilled.
Wow.
But he knew, it's powerful. He knew, I'm going to set a specific number. So he puts his own reputation at risk. Right. And he did that. And even still, 300,000 people showed up to the Washington Monument.
Right. So when he's making the spiritual condition, it's not this exactly random or just off of feelings let's see what we're going to end up catching. Right. Yeah, he made this set condition in which the environment could go against him, wouldn't allow him to catch.
Yeah, it's not under his complete control. He doesn't know how many fish he's going to catch.
Right.
He can't control that, but...
Right. That's amazing. So, is there anywhere in the Bible where you could see about Jesus' life that relates to that event?
I can't help but remember a certain story where Jesus is on a boat with his disciples, and there's a storm.
And they're fishing, aren't they?
They were trying to, maybe, but his disciples were fishermen, and they were on a boat. But there's a storm hitting, and they were all afraid of capsizing and drowning. Jesus was taking a nap. Right. He knows there's a storm going on, but he's taking a nap. Yeah. They said, "Jesus, save us, we're all going to die." And what does he do first? He doesn't freak out like, "Oh my God, there's a storm." He chastises the disciples and say, "Ye of little faith." Right. Right? Yep. And so then he's like, "Fine, if y'all going to be a bunch of babies about it." Then he goes out, chastises the storm, and then the storm calms. Right. But the point is Jesus had absolute faith in God, that God would protect him, and he had that covenant with God. Just as true Father made that covenant with God. Right. And had faith, absolute faith. Because he knows if he was just some regular guy, You go out in a boat in a storm, there's a good chance you're going to die.
Right.
But he had absolute faith in God. God, we made a deal together. Even though it's scary out there, even though I'm going to overcome my fear. I'm going to have absolute faith in you, just like Jesus did.
Right. Powerful.
Bam.
Okay. So now, did it have to be 6 Marys? Did he have to make a condition of having sex with a certain amount of women? Did it have to be that way?
Well, probably. I don't know what the number is. I actually don't know what the number is.
Okay.
But there's
not an actual record.
Right.
Yeah.
But I do want to mention how there is a man, but he's known by Sam Park. Mm-hmm. And people understand that he is father's son, but he is father's son with a woman who is on Hakjahan.
Right.
So then that obviously is that looks like a red flag to people. Mm-hmm. So what's his story? Mm-hmm. Well, his story is when father married Hakjahan, he told her up front from the beginning.
Yes.
It's like if you marry, this is before they got married even. If we get married, our mission, one of our main primary missions, is to have 12 children.
Yes.
Right? 12.
Now, so why 12 children?
Well, 12 children represents, to me, you have the 12 tribes of Israel. Mm-hmm. The 12 represents all of humanity. Mm-hmm. Right? So by having 12 children, he's kind of, in a sense, giving birth to all of humanity, restoring all of humanity. Mm. But we need to hit that number of 12. Mm-hmm. That's a providential number. Mm-hmm. It's in the Bible everywhere. So it's a providential number. He tells her at the beginning, we need to have 12 children. It's part of our mission. It's non-negotiable. It's the thing that God needs us to do.
Right.
So
then out of that 12, is there a special heir that comes out of that 12? Is some type of promise out of that?
Well, yeah. As my understanding was that if he has 12, then his proper heir and successor will come from that from one of those 12. Now we all understand that is the second king Hyungjanim, who father coronated 3 times to make it as clear as possible. Right. But that was his birth. He was the last son. Right.
Yeah, the last son.
He was the last son.
Yeah, I think he was like the 10th one, and then after
10th child, and
two
there's two
sisters. Yeah.
So that shows that because he's the one, even though being the last, you'd think that's the eldest son. Really, it turned out it was the youngest son. Because he comes in the foundation of all his older siblings being born and going their course before him. Right.
So he could clearly see, like this way's bad, this way is good. Yeah, he can easily overview the map of the certain directions where his siblings went.
He could see the demons that attacked his older siblings.
The traps. Traps. Right. So Hakjahan made that promise with him.
She agreed. Right. She agreed. Right. Okay. I will marry you and we will have 12 children. Mm-hmm. She made that agreement with him.
Because I noticed that there was a gap between the birth of Kukchanim and then Kwanjanim. There was actually a big age gap between them. Mm-hmm. So, what basically happened?
Yeah, so if you look at all of Kukchanim's older siblings, the gap between them is regular. So
which, by the way, they were born in Korea. Kukchanim was the last one actually born in Korea.
Oh, really?
And then Kwanjin was the first one born in America. Yeah.
And, they were regular intervals between the children. Mm. And then after Kukchan, there's a gap. Because Hakjahan at that point said, I'm done. I can't have any more children. That's all you're going to get out of me. Mm-hmm. So then there's that gap. Mm-hmm. Father did not have the option of allowing it to just be, I don't know what number Kukchan was, but I
think it was a 6th child.
So it was halfway through.
Yeah, literally halfway.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
we already went over the fishing story that father he's a man that has to complete his condition.
Right. He doesn't have the option of not completing the condition.
Right. He says it, he has to do it.
Exactly.
He's a man of his word.
Right. As a Messiah, he has to be the most man of his word of all time.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate sign of character.
Right.
And so he made that sacred covenant with God. I will have 12 children, and he made the agreement with Hakjahan.
Right.
When we get married, we need to have 12 kids.
Yeah.
And then she backed out about halfway through. So then there was that gap, and then that's where Sam Park comes from. Father was not going for gratification. He's like, I need to have 12 kids, and that's why Sam Park was born.
Wow.
After Sampark was born, Hak Jahan repented, and then at that time, and then agreed to finish her mission and have the 12 children. And then Hyungjin, the last son, was born after a certain point, and then he became father's inheritor.
Wow. Yeah, so this isn't just out of randomness. There's unlike other cults out there that would just be random and usually they have sex until they die with their,
And it's usually they're abusing children.
Yeah. You look at like Children of God out there, or you look at, I don't think Scientology, I don't think L. Ron Hubbard did stuff like that though. I'm trying to think.
I'm sure the Scientologists also.
No, yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah. And then, early Mormonism, there's polygamy. So that's also another thing.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of even more minor cults that were still famous.
Yeah.
That like didn't become religious, but were famous cults that had rampant, like freaking Charles Manson.
Charles Manson, yeah. Charles Manson was another one.
The guy who
I think David Koresh, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe
Koresh.
Yeah,
he did.
David Koresh.
And then the guy, the fruit punch guy.
Jim Jones.
Jim Jones
did
I believe so.
Yeah.
I'll have to double check.
Yeah. Okay. But no, it's very common that there's no, and then actually there were like splinter cults that came off of the Unification Church, and some of those cults did the same thing just randomly. There's no set number. It's just like just literally there's like this one cult where a guy had like 1,000 had sex like with 1,000 women, but there's like no pinpoint number. Just And usually like those people get destroyed real quick, but you don't see that in Father's lifetime who actually had like as far as the founder goes, he had the biggest religion as far as like the founder living.
Right. In the founder's lifetime.
There's fruit that came off of this. That's my point. While in other religions or churches that practice this, they die quick. Right, so I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah, you're gonna get husbands pissed off, you're gonna get women traumatized, and it's gonna end real quick, which has happened.
Yeah, I think what you said is true. Like, it ends up destroying them.
Yeah, exactly.
It's people think, oh, that'd be amazing. No, it's a self-destructive behavior.
Right. Yeah.
Is what that is. It will destroy a man if that's what he is doing.
Right. Yeah.
Father lived to 92.
Yeah.
He was a man of strong conviction and character his entire life.
Yeah.
He was destroyed by nothing.
Yeah.
So, the last point I really wanted to make was talking about the second king.
Yeah, in this case, I know people will be like, well, if Reverend Moon did this, does that mean that Hyunjin's gonna do the same thing? Does Hyunjin have any secret, sexual partners out there and stuff like that? Matter of fact, actually, one of our sisters, her name's Yujin. She became a real, big famous conservative.
Over in Korea.
Yeah, in Korea, and a lot of people respect her. So when people found out that she supported Sanctuary, and there were people that made accusations like, she's one of Hyunjin's concubines. It's like, what? So, and then people just talking shit. They're just like, blah. They don't know anything, and it's like, we've been here in this community. We're really like family here. We've been invited to BJJ over at his house or whatever, and it's like even Hyunjin is very public. No one sees that in his life.
He has a very public life.
Yeah, he has
and
a very public life. Yeah.
His character, he doesn't want to have a public life.
Right.
He used to be like a Buddhist monk.
Yeah.
I think his nature is more not so out public nature. But he understood that Father needs him to live this course.
Yeah.
So despite what he wants to do, he has a very public, open life. So it's not like he's keeping things secret, people don't know what he's doing. We know what his life is because he's so open with us. Right.
So this begs the question is Hyunjin, does he have concubines of his own? Is that the case? Is he going to, or did he?
No. You would think
that
You would think that if the Moon family just set this all up as a cult, just to put themselves in a position where they can start banging a lot of chicks, right? Then it would not have ended with father, right?
Yeah.
He would have done it, and then his son would have come up with some, excuse. Oh, well,
The mission's not
he's not
over
complete.
yet.
He didn't sleep with enough. I gotta take over where he left off, and then he would just keep doing it, and then his son after him.
Right.
It would never end.
Right. Yeah.
But the opposite is true. The exact opposite is true. Hyunjin stayed absent until his marriage.
Mm-hmm.
He got married to his wife, Yeonanim,
Mm.
and he has stayed perfectly faithful to her for how many years now?
Well, I know his oldest son's like 22 or something like that.
Yeah, so over 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's made it. He's publicly stated, "I have zero interest in any of your wives.
Yeah.
Like, I got my own.
Yeah.
I got my own wife. I love her. I'm loyal to her."
I remember. I remember.
There's no husbands here in sanctuary. He's like, "Oh, he's taking advantage of my wife." There's no girls who said, "Oh, he was inappropriate with me." There's no, just like father had no accusations, there are zero accusations against Hyunjin.
Right.
Right.
So I remember Hyunjin said that said if I were ever if I ever were to do that, my wife would kill everyone. Just like my wife would be like, no.
Hyunjin, he could have it was well within his ability to do something like that, but he perfectly understands that his mission is separate, is a different mission than his father had.
Right.
He is not the Messiah. True Father is and always will be the true Adam, restored Jesus, the Messiah.
So forth, yeah.
And so forth. And so he knows that that's not my mission. I can live life normally. I can have a normal life where I get married to my wife and we stay loyal to each other, have children. And that's what he constantly preaches, just as his father preached, the importance of abstinence, sexual purity, waiting till marriage, staying faithful to your spouse in marriage.
Right.
Because that is the best environment for, not only maintaining your own spiritual purity, but it's just the best environment for raising God-centered families. Amen.
All right, man. Awesome.
So,
I'm sure. Yeah, I think for people who are watching this, some people who because I remember I purposely challenged some pastors. I acted like I was a disgruntled second gen, and I'm like, why did your father have sex with? And it's so funny the faces I've seen pastors.
Yeah.
I don't know what to. I'm like, I'm just playing. No, I believe in your father. I seriously just didn't. I didn't really understand. And
right.
They're like, oh, but then they don't know how to explain it themselves. Right. They don't know the depth.
But have they even bothered to try and find out?
I think some probably. Yeah. I mean, maybe there just wasn't the resources. There just wasn't resources to understand this.
Yeah.
And
Maybe they didn't really believe Father was the Messiah.
Well, a lot of them are family fed.
Right.
But but then and then there's gonna be haters that are gonna be like, so that's fine. We welcome that.
This is an important topic. I wanted to address it directly. So
awesome.
This is what was on my heart. I wanted to share.
Definitely. All right. I think that's it. Have a good day, everybody.
See ya.